Hello and welcome back to the Geevor Podcast. My name is Charlie, your host. And just before we introduce today's guest, I just want to say I promise we have got some sort of schedule on the way, so you're not waiting any longer for frequent episodes. We're looking at alternating Fridays throughout the upcoming months, so we've got plenty in store for you all. But enough of that. Today I'm joined by Geevor's Learning Manager and one of our resident musicians, Clint Hosking. Morning, Clint. Welcome.
Morning, Charlie.
How are you?
Very well, thank you very much.
It's good to finally get this out the way.
Finally get there. Finally managed to sit down and be sensible for a few moments.
However long it takes, exactly. Do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what your role is here?
Well, I started at Geevor about 16 years ago. It's starting to get a bit worried. I took over as the manager of the learning department in about, I think, 2012. And from there, basically running all school visits, colleges, universities, lifelong learners, anybody basically comes to Geevor. And we run workshops based around, obviously, the history of the site itself. But our role here at Geevor, whether we're doing about rocks or about light sources, whatever part of the curriculum it is, or whatever interest that particular group has, is always making things very practical. We've got this amazing site. And everything on it is real. It's not fabricated. We've got real people they can speak to that worked here as well. That's making the most of the fact that we've got this incredible resource and not having it like a classroom as well. So there's things you can do here you can't replicate anywhere else. So making the most of that, the fact that it's authentic and you get the real story, I think is what appeals to all ages. And people from outside of Cornwall as well are fascinated by it. So it's incredible.
So you've been doing it for quite a while then.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm a little bit younger than you, but I've actually had the opportunity to be at one of your outreach sessions as well. We did discover a photograph a few weeks ago of me. I believe it was a pirate-themed event, hence the neckerchief. But I was dressed as a pirate and I was wearing miner's gear. And I believe it was one of your outreach sessions, which is great.
It was. Oh dear, I'm going to crumble to dust in a minute. I can remember that because my son, it was a scouts event. My son was a scout as well, which again makes me feel ancient because he's the same age as my son, and I imagine. And I can remember it was somebody's doing a tin smelting demonstration, and they asked for somebody to go along with some resources, and so kids could do things like look at that we could win the miners would be using, rare miners, hard hat and lamp and that sort of thing. Talk to them a little bit about why tin was mining in Cornwall in the first place, what it looks like, what samples, all that kind of stuff that I do on outreach to this day still. And I can remember going there as well. Yeah, and it's quite shocking to think that was, I dread to think what year that was. Don't tell me. And then, yeah, it has happened now sometimes where I bumped into people there was a young lady here from School of Mines, I think the year before last, and they were doing their underground mapping here. And one of them said that she remembered being taken around this site that when she was here with the primary school, and that I took her around, and she's now an adult studying geology. So yeah, I am starting to feel a little bit like a fossil.
That is terrifying. Obviously, because I started here a couple of years ago, and my granddad used to take me underground and around the site. Unfortunately, there's not actually that many photographs. I know there's a specific one of me and my brother in the drill shop, but other than that, I can't think of that many, which is annoying.
There's some people that worked here for decades and there's not a photograph of them. And that's a great shame, really, because there's people that we know that we've spoken to that worked here for years and we can't find any photographic evidence of them they look for. And I know Steve, for example, he worked here 6 or 7 years and not a picture of him. We got a fantastic one there of Grant, as we all know.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But there's so many there. There's so many photos in the dry as well that people have gone, that's not me. And then we've had to change it.
We've had people it's also struggling to get some of the names spelled correctly. And yeah, there's a couple of people who've got photographs of them in the dry. We don't know their names. Sometimes it's because they might have been a student, again, from Cornwall School of Mines coming here. They might have only been here for a summer or a few weeks or months. And so not many people would identify them. And sometimes people are wrongly identified in it as well. So it's quite a fun process at the same time, mind you, because you're then looking at the photos carefully. And we're really lucky because if we've got a photo of somebody who's whatever it might be, cutting a hitch or putting in a raise or something, you can actually ask somebody who's done those jobs what exactly is happening in the photograph. And you get some, it's a luxury that people that work with much older sites haven't got. They can't speak to a living person about what you're looking at in the photographs, if indeed they've even got a photograph. So it's actually really useful. But the other thing is that, like school group I took around the site yesterday, they were just looking at photographs as we were going through, and they would recognize the faces as, that looks like Grandad, or hang on a minute, I know who that is, or that looks familiar, and they would ask questions. They would engage with the site in ways that they might not if they have a book put in front of them, or even a film or something like that. It's not the same as being in the site itself. A lot of them, I don't think, experience something like that. Some of them sometimes even ask, is this real?
That's really immersive, isn't it? It's one of the most immersive places I've been to. But going back to the photographs, though, you got to think, people were working here to earn money and go home. They weren't, we don't get photographs taken of us, or if you worked in B&M or a garage or as a carpenter, you're not having photographs taken all the time. So it is actually quite rare that we have got so many to go through, despite missing some people out. But
it's like, speaking to someone said they could hear the sea underground and they wish they'd recorded it. They wish they'd filmed it on video or something underground where they were working, but never thought of doing that. Never thought it would ever be a part of history eventually. And we don't think about that. We're living now. We don't think, oh, I better save that because in 50 years' time, somebody's going to be fascinated by it.
Can you imagine the footage you would grab underground in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even prior to that, if you had the technology we got now? Just grab your phone out, take a quick video. It's like, you imagine that now. It'd be incredible.
Yeah, there's just so much that we can be told about now. And we can, like you said, there's the photographs, there's the actual artifacts of the drills and everything else that was used down there. But there's, and we do have an underground here, so you can get some feel of what it was like. And I have been taken into some of the other mines locally as well, where you get a feel for what it was like. I mean, it wasn't a miner myself. I don't know exactly what that's like. But I've learned a lot from them about it. And as my grandfather worked here, and I believe he was a trammer, I've learned a lot about what his life must have been like from talking to people who were trammers who worked underground here and what that was like. So it is something where, being from the area myself, I mean, you're the same, you know, your grandfather worked here as well. Yeah, it's you find out a lot about what life must have been for your own family without, otherwise you would not have got that. You wouldn't have understood what that was like. We've got oral history recordings as well. So I've listened to recordings of men who were working here in the 50s and the 60s. Some sadly are no longer living. And so you get this unique insight into what life was like in the village both of us grew up in. You know, you can find out a little bit more about what it was like. And that is fascinating to me. And I find that fascination sort of feeds over into groups that visit. Or if I go out into schools or colleges, or even do talks for the WI and the University of Third Age, people like that, they're fascinated as well by these stories, because not everyone is a geologist or an engineer or a miner or anything like that, but everybody wants to know what it was like to be a person having to do those jobs and what it would have been like. That's the most common question. What was it like under the sea? What was it like to lift a rock drill? What was it like to get up at 6 or whatever it was in the morning and then get changed in the dry and hatch a cage down underground? Because only the people that did it really know, but the curiosity is, this is as close as they can get probably is here, unless they actually start going underground and working themselves.
Yeah. I mean, would you say that's like your favourite part of the job, the immersion of it? The fact that you can then pass on knowledge you've learned from other people to younger people and get them involved? Because I can imagine now, I'd say you're an educator, aren't you? It's quite difficult to engage children now, considering it's a world full of TikTok and online, and it is a little bit difficult. But
well, what I find actually, that this is a subject that people can relate to very quickly. It's a part of Cornwall's history, so there's that sense of pride in it. But it's not just people from Cornwall that are fascinated by it as well. It's just an incredible story in itself. I was overseas in New Zealand. There's a Cornish pumping house in Wahi in New Zealand, which I've probably pronounced wrong then, David.
You'll get grilled for that now, is it? How dare you?
But there is this international connection as well. And people, when I've been overseas, a lot of people will recognise Cornwall, for example, before they recognise most of the UK. So there is that big connection overseas as well. So there's people that will recognise us from that. And it's always connected to mining. You'll have electric engine houses in New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, all over the place. And I think that part of the story fascinates people, not just from Cornwall. And there's always, I've had children say as well, and it doesn't just apply to children. They will say that we're not talking about kings and queens here or the landed gentry. We're talking about everyday people, what they would be doing. And often that's a part of history that's left out or not talked about so much. I remember at school that it was the kings and queens and the dates of when they were, that was a big part of it. But now it's, there's this emphasis on what would it have been like for everyday people? What would their lives have been like? What would it have been like for you, sort of thing? And children said that they like the fact that they can relate to it. So because they can relate to it so quickly, sometimes I've gone into classrooms and the very fact you're doing mining, they're excited before you arrive because it's something that, and of course, some of them may have played Minecraft as well. And some of that does actually translate over. It's great if you say to a child, we know you're playing a video game, but how do you make an ingot? And then they describe the smelting process, which they wouldn't have learned any other way, I can't imagine, not at that age. But they know how it works.
Video games do help then.
I know, not necessarily all of them, but it's the fact that you can't discount some of these things as always being negative. Sometimes it's got a positive element. They even realise that resources are finite. If they want to make a pickaxe, whatever it is, and they don't have enough sticks to be able to do it because they don't have the wood to make it, you can't make it. And so they realise as well that there's resources underground, that they're valuable, that they're finite, and to get down to them and get them out the ground can be difficult, and then you've got to smelt it into a metal. Those principles and concepts, in some small way, they've understood from playing the game. It's only really a positive. And anything that encourages them to learn, I think, is a good idea. But as soon as you walk in or you say you're going to be talking about mining, and also the other thing I found is that nobody likes being sort of lectured at or spoken to like that. You've got to make it fun and interesting, and that is always the key element of it. So, most of us in the learning team, we're not afraid to make fools of ourselves. You've probably seen that
A lot.
and then, yeah, but it's and also not being condescending to anybody who's here, whether it's a child or an adult. If they've got an interest in it and they want to ask you questions about it, then I mean, it's a privilege really to be able to pass it on at the end of the day. And that there is a personal element to it as well, is that you do get to speak to a lot of people that worked here. And you do get to be friends with them, and they do share stories with you. Some of them can be quite personal as well, about what it was like to work here. Some of them will speak about loss of friends here as well. Some quite deep personal stuff sometimes. And that, you realise, is something that's an important part of the community, that would have been an important part of the community around mine as well. And that you feel like you're part of a family. You're not part of a team of just colleagues, as it were.
It was almost like that now, though. We said this in the last pretty much 3 or 4 episodes we've done, which is all of them. But it is Geevor's like a family now. Even like Michael was saying the last episode, he was saying that coming to work on a Wednesday, he said he feels like he's part of a family and he really enjoys it. It's the same underground. It's the same with us. It's the same with the volunteers, the cafe staff. I'm sure they all feel the same.
It's the banter as well. It's brilliant. Absolutely priceless.
It's never ending.
And I think, obviously if you've got groups in here, you gauge, because some people want to come in here, they want to do about the science, and that's what they're here to do. They want to look at the, we'll probably get onto a bit more about the science, but, and the engineering and everything else. But a lot of people, they like being involved in that sort of banter that you could imagine in the dry, what it must have been like. Obviously, the PG version. but even that within itself, the fact that it was not malicious, a lot of the time that we get. I mean, we've had this morning, a chat with Grant about the fact that he might come bursting through the door at any minute. And
I'm waiting for it now. I mean, I'm literally on the edge of my seat, ready to tell him to get out.
I might come in and say, "Have you lot shut up yet?" Or
Or something worse.
or that's not right. Yeah, or something worse. Yeah, it's like, don't tell those lies. Yeah. But I think that's part of it. It's those characters, and it's we're no shortage of them here either. And I think that's the important bit more than anything. Sort of like who worked here, what was it like, and then you can get into the detail if they got specific interests as well. Whether it would be we want to look at the rock cycle, which I know is an important part of the curriculum, or if they want to look at what bowel maidens would have been doing. Because I do remember a project with the WI, they were very interested in that. And we got in touch with Lynn Mayers, who wrote the book about bowel maidens, and Seville, in fact. Some really interesting research she's done there. And it was just really good to be able to talk about the history here. Because if you walk along the cliffs here as well, you're walking literally in the footsteps of people that did this work. And I think that's immersive in itself, is that you've got this scenery in this environment that's unique, and people do love it. They come here and they think they'd come to another world altogether.
It's just the fact you can still experience it, though. The fact that it is all still there for you to, like you said, walk in their footsteps, whether that's underground or here or in the mill, or you're walking where they've been there and done it, aren't you? So,
I mean, you do literally walk in the footsteps of miners themselves. I mean, quite literally. The video we have of Grant taking people through the dry, you can walk through there yourself today and stand where he stood, and then realize that hundreds of miners, thousands of miners would have walked through there.
And that would be the exact same thing, yeah.
Exactly the same room.
Just going back to your teaching methods then, obviously with Minecraft and all this sort of stuff being more recent, would you say you've had to change your teaching methods at all in sort of recent years with the whole rise of, I don't know, memes and all that sort of stuff? Obviously, because you've got to be almost as entertaining as possible, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you're going to be talking to particularly younger children, there's different ways of approaching it as well. So it's not going to be, as I say, there's no sort of talking at a whiteboard or something like that, which I'm sure many teachers can be far more entertaining with than I can. So from that point of view, there's things like we've got music that we will use on site as well. We've got the fact, yes, we've got all these resources. So if you go and say miners used to go underground in a cage, we can go over to the winder house and see how many children will fit in a cage if they want to. And
that is always very entertaining.
What would it have been like? Well, you're about to have a go if you want to. And then we can look at the actual machinery. It's like, see, instead of saying that the drills are heavy, say, well, we'll have one of you try and pick it up and you can tell your classmates whether you think it's heavy or not. I think, getting back to the fact that the site itself is a great resource. But even when I go out, I take quite a few things with me, resources, whether it's tools, whether it's outfits so they can dress like they're a miner or a bowel maiden or a modern miner, because we've got the actual lamps and the hard hats and the overalls. And
can you take some of Grant's clothes from it?
No, I don't think any child will fit on them. In fact, I'm not sure many human beings will fit them. Bless him. But he's got quite a few coats here looking now.
I think it's about 9 in total.
There's not many chaps that will have, I don't know, he's got about 18 pairs of shoes, and he needs his own wardrobe, doesn't he?
Well, he's got mine, so when doesn't need another one. But anyway.
But yeah, I mean, I can see, children are much more aware, especially of technology. And like you say, things are a bit more fast paced, but that's kind of always been there in the background of it. Every generation has said things are moving faster, but a lot of the time, as I say, they will be interested in what was it like. They're excited when they arrive on site as well. And I think because it's not an artificial world, which they may well be more used to. And I think that is a side of it they like. And there's a bit of a challenge on the site as well. So if they want to go, they can have a go at drilling, they can have a go at crushing, and say, how physically demanding was that? And even from having a go at that, and they say, right, so you need to produce energy for a mine. How did they do that? And then they start thinking about steam engines and who was responsible for those, and what an engineering feat it was to get all that granite down to cliff edges and huge beam engines and that were the size of your bus that you arrived in on the site. And they did that without modern cranes and so forth. Then they start to appreciate the engineering feat and why Cornish miners and engineers were sought after globally for so long. And then when they start looking at the fact it used to be done by hand,
Which still blows your mind to this day.
And people their age were doing it. There's that famous photograph of those 4 boys stood on the cliff edge of a photograph in 1860, and they all look about 9. And then to say to them, that's a photograph of miners. And a lot of children, they're sort of astounded that their age would actually have been sent underground at one point. And people living today would not be happy to think that that's what's happened in the past. But it did. It was part of it. And it was part of, I think it's a fascination for them to think, yeah, you would have been doing it. When you go underground, this is why you need to look after the adults in the underground, because we need to duck, you're fine.
Yeah, we're doing all right. We're smashing our head to pieces.
So I always have one of the children at the front saying, look after me, because I'm going to bang my head. I remember we had the pirates come here once. One of them was 6'8", and he looked at me as we're about to go in and said, "Mike could be right in here."
No.
It's like, you're going to be a bit like that boulder, mate, at the beginning of Indiana Jones. But it was great, and I think they enjoyed that experience. They might not have been happy; they'd just been doing deadlifts the day before, so their legs weren't really up to crouching. But a few moaned and groans went through, but
Just part of the experience as well.
yeah,
Obviously, as a guide myself, I get loads of questions thrown my way. Obviously, some silly, some brilliant, all welcome. But I can imagine it happens a lot. But do any of the kids or students ever catch you off guard with any of their questions, make you laugh?
yeah, it's all the time. But my favourite to this day is still there was a group down at the magnetic separator, and this chap was explaining to his son how he'd read the signs, so he was explaining how the separator worked and how iron was separated from tin and so on. And he rather, I felt, patronising. He said to his son, "And do you have any questions?" He said, "Yeah, Dad, how does magnetism work?" And I saw this guy's face melt. Because that's a good question. I was like, go on then, tell him. So again, it's that thing about you can't be condescending. You can't sort of underestimate people. And they will, and children do ask some fantastic questions that sometimes adults don't think to ask. There's one child that asked one of our miners, because if I get a chance, I will have them meet one of the miners that worked here, and they can ask them questions about underground or even on the surface for that matter. They're fascinated by so much of it. But one of them asked, "Were you scared when you started?" And he said, "Yeah, he was." And I think sometimes you can ask that question if a child asks in a different way you would than if an adult were to ask you. And so children will say things, sometimes they want to ask about accidents, which might not be appropriate for everybody. Some people don't like talking about it, which is fair enough. But children understand that as well. And I think there's an element of, because people talk about mental health now and well-being, and that comes into it on the site as well. We talked about family and community, and the fact that people who worked on it, you had to work as a family. Like you say, you wouldn't get on with everybody, even in your own family, but you sort of get on with each other because you have to. And I think there's none of that here as well that comes across, and I think it comes across in visits, that whilst you're here, you're kind of part of the family. And so when you're going around the site and people are being shown stuff, they can ask these questions, were you scared? What was it like? Was there anybody, any time that anything went wrong that bothered you? Or did you, what was the bit you liked? Did you enjoy mining? People asked that as well. And a lot of them said, yeah, they would have done it again if they could. And it's great because you then hear those questions being answered, and it gets logged in your own mind. Oh, he answered that, he said that he liked this. And then when somebody asks you, because ultimately that's going to be the next stage, it'll be, were you a miner? There's going to be, did you meet a miner? Eventually, yes, it's going to get that way. And so you realize you're sort of the custodian of it. It doesn't belong to you as such. You're just passing it on.
Well, they wouldn't be here forever. I mean, obviously now the whole site isn't occupied by ex-miners, so it is second-hand information, but you give it 10, 15, sometimes even 5 years, there might not be that many ex-miners left. What are we down to now? 5, 6 that work here now?
Yeah, I mean, they're entitled to retire and put their feet up.
Exactly.
Of course they are. And they've worked hard. And they've shared so much of their stories, so much of their past with us. You can't demand any more of them.
And obviously they're working just as hard now to preserve it for everyone else. So
Unbelievably so, yeah.
certainly.
And so giving of their time. There's people that are retired that will quite happily, if I were to phone up and ask if maybe they come and do a talk, or maybe I've got a question for them. They're always giving of their time. It's absolutely wonderful. And you do really appreciate anything really. I can remember, I mean, he's gone now, bless him, but there was one chap that I was speaking to. We were decorating a Christmas tree together, would you believe, in the chapel in St. Just. And he spent about 2 hours and he was telling me stories about working underground. And he said, I'm not boring you with this, am I? I thought, absolutely not. This is,
Carry on.
It's like a treasure, basically, that's been handed over to you, really. And like I say, he's sadly no longer with us. And you just think back, yeah, I'm the only one that remembers now what he said on that day. And you do think there's a responsibility that comes with it as well. But the privilege of being able to hear those stories is a very important part of the job. And it's something that enthusiasm for it as well, and that interest comes across, I think, with groups that visit, because it's not just ourselves here. There's other guys on site that are exactly the same. There's this absolute passion that I think everybody has for telling the authentic story of it, because so much gets romanticized as well, and all these stories that get passed along, you realize that people have an idea of it, and people will ask, though, they come in and they say, well, I've seen this film, or I've seen this TV series, was it really like that? And I think that's a good starting point. I don't object to any of these programs really as such, because people then say, well, what is the real story? And it's quite flattering that they come here to get it.
Come and find out, yeah.
Yeah, and here we are, still here.
I had someone on a tour on, might have been Wednesday or Thursday last week, and they heard Grant's episode of the podcast and then wondering if Grant was in on that day to talk to him. Unfortunately, he wasn't. But, people are finding us online as well, not just through archive footage and stuff, but what we're putting out today, people are still interested, which is obviously really good.
That's lovely, really, actually. And the fact that we've got, like you say, people that worked here, we've got all these stories collected over the years as well. I'm glad we've got the archive here of the oral history recordings, which we're going to be making more use of in future as well. And tying them up with photographs as well, because sometimes there's photographs of the people that are talking that we can actually put in there and they will tell us some of the origins of where they came from, how they ended up working there. Because we had people from all over the world working here. We had Italian, Polish miners and all sorts. And their story is fascinating as well. So it's a never-ending thing, actually. If I've been in, as I said, for brother years, and there's still something new to discover, even after all this time.
You learn every day, don't you? So
yeah, or you get a new story. Somebody will tell you something you've known them for years, and he'll tell you something that's I don't think he's ever said that before.
They stick with you though. Things like that. Things that my granddad tells me about underground. Obviously, I've known him my whole life, of course, but he tells me new things all the time. I can then, what he's told me, I can ask other people, get their opinion on it. Did they ever experience it? It goes on forever. You're like permanently learning, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do want to speak about music in a little bit, but just one question just before we move on. Obviously, you've done loads of outreach sessions. You've had hundreds and hundreds of groups here over the years. But is there one specific moment that a group or an outreach session has brought that has been like just the funniest one of the lot? Is there one that sticks out? Dare I ask?
There is one. I don't know if I should mention names necessarily or not, but I don't think they're mine. There was, I was at a school, local school, and because I knew it was local, I said, was anybody whose family may have worked at the mine? And because I know myself that my grandfather worked here, and it would be interesting. So a couple of the kids in the class put on, obviously, yeah, my granddad worked here, and or somebody they knew. So I asked a couple. I said, you know, it was, and they would say, and then I said to one, oh, my granddad worked at mine. Oh yeah, I said, what was his name? He went, Pop Pop. It was like,
I know where the words go.
oh yeah, and so, but it was quite funny because they said, you know, what did other people call him? Well, I don't know. And then I asked what his name was. He told me his name, and I thought, I know who your granddad is. As soon as I said that, he was like, oh, do you?
Terrified then.
But I did genuinely know who it was as well, and that's nice because then you've got a connection straight away with the class there, and they also then think, oh, when I said to them I actually went to this school, it's that same thing. You were a child, but you're so old.
When some people ask me on tours and stuff, they ask how long I've been working here and all that sort of stuff. I've been asked it before if I actually worked underground, which is terrifying as a 21-year-old. I can't look that old, surely.
Well, in fact, I was quite flattered. A lady did say, you couldn't have worked here, you're too young. And I'm only just too young. And however, I am old enough that I think Crofty shut in 98. It's possible I could have been there, but no. Well, no. But I remember...
Age is a compliment.
Yeah, I'll try to. But I can remember myself as a kid in St. Just in the mid-80s when mine did shut. I do remember it from a child's perspective. And that's quite interesting to look back on, because there's things I remember from then that at the time you're just a kid, you don't pay attention. But looking back, I think, oh, that's why that happened. That's why we were told this. That's why there was all these sort of warnings about the insecurity of future, employment and so on. You realise then, oh, crumbs, that's what was being said to us. Always have a backup plan. I remember that being said a lot. And in many respects, that's also part of what we do here as well, because there's still careers to be had in mining. That's where we've got the STEM hub, the science, technology, engineering, maths is they're big subjects at school.
I always forget that. It always loses me halfway through. I'm at science, lost it. Like, every time.
It's a good acronym, but what does it mean? Yeah. But that's a big part of what we are doing here at Geevor as well. So in February, we properly opened up the STEM hub and had some activities down there, which we'll be expanding upon as the years go by and time goes by. So that's another important aspect of it that we want to introduce as well. And I think it's just that the site itself has so much potential for that. I mean, if you're doing, maths on site, there's underground mapping, there's forces, motion, there's all kinds of stuff around physics, there's all sorts of stuff about energy production, because we've got a steam winder, there's the substation for electricity.
There aren't many things that we can't really cover, is there? To an extent.
The whole lot is here, basically. So you've got chemistry as well in the mill. There's an awful lot of science in the mill. And you can see it in action. So it's not a case of this is all theoretical. It's all of this stuff had to actually work, because if you don't get the tin out the ground, you can't extract it. What are you here for? So there's all those elements of it come into it. And then you can talk about where it's going in future as well. So we have, there was one project we did I've been told to some of the people at Spaceport Cornwall as well about how would you mine an asteroid? How would you mine in harsh conditions? And for that, you could look at the past to inform you. So some miners went over to work in remote areas. One miner's worked in an area where you can only access it via helicopter. And then you've got to drill through a mountain to see whether there's iron, I think it was they were looking for, how much is in that. So there's no end really to where we can go for it as well. So there's a lot of work we've been doing with the older age group as well, because there's secondary schools that we could do an awful lot here that would help them with their curriculum as well. And geology, as we said, is the obvious one, but it's not the only one we can cover here as well. We've got a lot of geography students come here as well, whether they're looking at a post-industrial landscape or whether they're looking at the social and economic aspects of areas. Got there in them. I only work in the learning department. I can say big words. Of the post-industrial landscape, the impact of the closure. What did it actually have? So there's people that have studied that, and then you get artists that will come here as well. We've had people come in to do poetry, we've had people who come here to do visual arts, we've had people come here to make films. We even had a group of local free runners that we sort of allowed on site to film, which was interesting in itself, because the obvious, it's not just the obvious things that we're looking at. There's so much scope. And if you think as part of the community, mining wasn't just about mining. You had choirs, you had brass bands, you had even musicians within the mine itself, which still happens today. We've still got people that play music on site as well. And then you have people that are interested in art, jewellery making. Like you said, there's not really a limit of what we can do on the site, which is connected to...
Quite literally can go on forever, can't it?
Yeah, I certainly can.
Everything does pretty much have a connection, so...
Ultimately, yeah.
Pretty much. Going back to the music then, like you said a minute ago.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you're one of our resident musicians here on site. What does that really entail?
It was, I was bullied into it. It's not my fault. It all started when Mark, who's also in the learning department, he's an actual musician involved with glam and band and so forth. He plays guitar, but he mostly plays a melodeon now, which is unusual because it's essentially like a button accordion that he plays, which I've just mined, which works really well in a podcast. And but he's brilliant. I'm so helpful. But he was he said, "Oh, you play guitar?" Yeah, I do play a bit of guitar. So a few years back, he suggested we play for school groups when they're in some of the local songs. And but I mean, the next thing I know, I'm sort of been involved with the local school choir, playing in a church full of people and realizing they want me to sing the verses. It's like, well, how did this happen?
Yeah, it takes off pretty quick, doesn't it?
And from there, it's gone completely mad. But it's also really enjoyable. I think also for a lot of, especially the kids or maybe the young lads in it, they see a guy having a go at singing and playing guitar and making a fool of himself, they think, oh, maybe it's all right then. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, there's that element of it as well. And there's also, it's a bit of a show off as well, why not say it? But that's sort of snowballed now into playing songs, particularly the fantastic Harry Glasson, who we're very lucky has visited site a few times. Geevor's mentioned in Call My Home, so it's one of the locations. And he's a really lovely chap as well, bless him. But Call My Home, a lot of schools learn it now, as well they should. And they come to site, and so we play it with them because a lot of the time it's a song the children know the words to, and so they join in with us. And so Mark plays and loading. I start them off with the guitar as well. And I think that the children like that as well. It's part of what would be around. Music's always been part of the site as well. And many communities throughout Cornwall. So it's great to share that in some of the other songs that he does. Harry's song for Cornwall, another one the children they really like. They get the chance to do the choo-choo.
I've done that a couple of times.
Oh, bless. And but in introducing them, because some of them then they go out and they want to know what other songs there are, and they sort of are interested then in the local songs, because there's a lot of songs based around Cornwall. A lot of songwriters still around there. You can go and see people play. You've got some fantastic musicians there, real ones, not me. And you can hear them playing. They're absolutely wonderful. And it's really great. We had a few of them playing at Geevor as well, which was fantastic.
Yeah, they're really outstanding. The cafe sessions are really good. We had some good local musicians come then.
And local choirs come to play. They'll be back again for this season as well, which will be great. And then that led to even having to go at writing songs and sometimes writing specifically because I've gone out and done mining and music evenings as part of the outreach. So that's not just outreach going into schools, it's going into, pubs and hotels and things, and playing music, but it's music that's about mining and about people going overseas to work. So I included a song about that. I know there's Cousin Jack, but no disrespect, that was a chap from Devon actually wrote that song. So I thought I better put one in that's actually around Cornishman. It's a fantastic song though, taking nothing away from him. There's and again, Harry Glasson's written another beautiful song about a child sort of being sent to work in a mine and the effect that had on the family, called Don't Be Letting Go, which is a brilliant song. So it's giving the background story about those as well, and incorporating some music. And I'm finding really that it doesn't matter about the age group. If you're in a pub and people have had a couple of drinks and you say, well, this is a Balmaden's bonnet, you're going to have a Blake try it on.
Yeah,
100%.
you could go into a pub anywhere and sing The Wheels on the Bus after a few pints, and everyone would.
Everyone knows it, you know. And and I do think, again, it comes down to, if you're having fun, you learn by accident anyway. And people,
But it makes it memorable. It does. It helps people learn when it's something they can remember. Whereas if you were just droning on from, like you said, a whiteboard or a textbook, that might be some people's way of learning. In school, that was the hardest thing for me, was learning that way, because it was just so bland. And we had so many teachers who tried different things and different games and interactives, even things like music as well. And it does help you learn. So especially when you're younger.
I remember some fantastic teachers at school, to be honest, that did make things very memorable, very lively, and a sense of humor often is a massively useful part as well. And so if something makes you laugh, especially as well, or they entertain you in some way, you remember exactly what they did. And I can remember some things from science at school. I was never particularly great at it, but I remember, because some of the lessons were very practical, they were very amusing, they were energetic, and you remember stuff like that. And that is probably some of that comes across in what we try to do as well. But
Yeah.
and I know that Peter, for example, he's done his fantastic rock lag in the mill, and that's very interactive. And you set games, which can you find which one of these rocks is tin, and how would you find which one is tin? So it's brilliant. And we do that with our rock challenge as well. How would you identify it? And then set these challenges and sort of have rocks that look really shiny and dramatic, and ones that might not look so exciting. Say, well, which ones are valuable? And then you set up that challenge of, it might not be the prettiest rock. Maybe there's a life lesson there. It might not be the prettiest rock that is actually the one that's the most useful and valuable.
You can write a song about that, couldn't you?
I'll be the next one.
Speaking of writing songs, you released a song yesterday called Sail Away. Want to tell us a little bit about that? Because I really like it.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's very catchy. That went out yesterday. Clint Hosking Music on Facebook. The link will be in the description. Check it out.
Plug.
Shameless plug.
Yay.
Very, very shameless plug. Check it out now.
That's again, it just snowballs. You don't plan it. These things happen. But that was song it was quite surprising how quickly that one came about. But it was again, you encouraged by people. Like I say, Harry is a great encourager. Sort of, if you're brave enough to sing Call My Home in the living room of the chap that wrote it to him, think,
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
is that all right? And you're so terrified if he goes, no, it's terrible, don't do that. But he would never do that. He's such a lovely, supportive chap.
You speak quite highly of him, of course. Would you say he's a big influence of yours?
Yeah, I would say that probably wouldn't be doing it, I suppose, if I hadn't have had that chance to speak there. I certainly wouldn't have gone to a few open mics and had a go, or if other people hadn't encouraged me. And there's no way I would have attempted to record anything of in my own voice. Nobody likes listening to their own voice back, do they? And
I hate editing these. I can't stand it.
yeah, I'd possibly won't even listen to this out of fear. And it's just, you sort of get over that. And if some people, because you get people that tease you, which you do need, but you'll get people that, no, that's good, and you don't know what to do with that. You're used to the people saying, rubbish, whatever. And then if somebody goes, no, it's good, I like that, it's like, right, then how do we act to this now?
It's getting yourself out there, though, isn't it? That's the main thing.
It's because I have now played at a few gigs now and sort of feeling a bit more confident with it. And we'd like to do more because it is good fun as well. But it's just, it's a little bit like you can't believe you've done it when you look back. It's like, did I really do that? Did I really have the nerve to do that?
Even like putting it online though, singing it in front of people's great, but putting it out there, pressing that publish button, you think, right, it's out there now. People might like this, people might not. It's quite scary, isn't it?
It is. But then again, that's for you doing the cover for that and then filming a quick video was again, is somebody saying, yeah, I'll do that, I'll help you with that.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
But it then encourages you and you think, oh, maybe it isn't terrible, maybe it is all right.
No, do another one. See, I really liked it. I thought it was brilliant. Oh, I really, really enjoyed it. It's very catchy. I've been humming it all morning. So
I told you I didn't know how to react to things like that.
There you go.
Good.
You're blushing now.
It's it's really, but it's just fun ultimately. And then again, we get to do fantastic songs by Harry as well, which I wouldn't mind having a go at doing that as well and getting them done. It's just now with the technology, you can record these things yourself in a way that you couldn't before, because the buildings here are fantastic for the reverb in them, bands and choirs. It just, the sound is fantastic in some of these buildings.
Mainly the compressor house I found seems to be the best one out the lot.
I actually sound quite reasonable in that, which is amazing, the effect on it. But the other thing as well is that there's people who offer support and will sing with you, which I just thought, wow, who on earth am I to even, touch their coattails, if you like, whatever you want to call it. Because there's Jenna Hughes, well, Jenna Witz, she recorded under as well, is a lady who, fantastic singer, songwriter as well, who, I had the privilege of singing with on site at one point, and it's just amazing because you just feel like an imposter. It's like, why?
Amongst the names, yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there would you say there's like an aim or is there like an end goal to your music sort of production life looking for, or Lembley?
No, I don't know. It'd be nice just to play in a few sort of pubs and maybe continue writing a few songs. I mean, you can just hope that if
Spot at a local festival maybe, or well, you could do it. Loughborough, there, you never know. It's September, you never know.
Well, I wouldn't say no, put it that way.
You never know.
I'd say no. It'd be great to do.
Obviously, we've spoke quite a bit about your own music, Cornish music, Harry's music. I'm going to throw a few questions at you.
Yours.
Right? Favourite song ever? Go.
Favourite song ever? Difficult to say. First one that springs to mind, Strawberry Fields, the Beatles.
Favourite album?
Oh, no, it'd be Beatles again. Now you've done it. Probably Revolver.
Biggest disappointment? Album, band, song, follow-up? Not second coming.
Not one. No, I have got no objections. As somebody who actually saw the Stone Roses live, I've got no objection to their second album. Absolutely love the first one. There was no way that was going to be, followed up
As good, yeah.
But I wouldn't say it was disappointment. I did like it.
It's like the Muppets said, isn't it? The sequel's never quite as good, but it might be good.
The Muppets.
Quote Kermit. I mean, biggest one I've seen live gig-wise, obviously, it was Oasis last year. That was absolutely phenomenal. But I'll never get to see the Stone Roses, unfortunately. Not now.
No, for that reason, I was away as well, but they're
Awful. Like a reunion was on the cards anyway, but I can imagine it's pretty far out now, I'm afraid.
All I can say is it was a great night.
From what you remember.
It was, well, as we've already mentioned, I am getting to be a bit of a fossil now. It was a while ago.
I can imagine.
I wouldn't like to say how many years ago, but I've got a bad feeling it might have been 30 years ago.
Wow.
yeah. So
So that was 9 years before I was born.
yeah, right.
To put it into perspective.
Cheers, lad.
Would you say that's the best gig you've ever been to?
Ooh, I don't know. That is a tough one to say because I did see U2 at Wembley a couple of times. And I say you talk about disappointments. In the 90s, for people that hate U2, I'll say there was a time in the 90s where they were really, really good. I will say no more. I did, a mate took me to see Def Leppard, which I didn't expect to enjoy, but I did.
my mum and dad saw Def Leppard. I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was the Hysteria tour at Wembley, and they were supported by Motley Crue, and apparently it was really, really good. But yeah, I never got to go, unfortunately. I'm not that big on Def Leppard. I know like 3-4 songs. I'm not.
I wasn't, but they were really good live. Really enjoyed it, and they were just really good. I mean, sometimes we might not like necessarily the music immediately, but when you go and see them live, you appreciate more what they're able to do.
Yeah.
I also saw in the 90s Suede,
Nice.
which was they a fantastic performer there, and they were very good live as well, I've got to say. And PJ Harvey, she was very good. Saw her live as well. And a few I can't. But this is a bit like I remember a conversation I had with a chap. I mean, because I'm not afraid to say it now. I'm past the big 50. I remember similar. I was your age talking to a guy who was my age, way back in the Stone Age times, and he was telling me he'd seen Led Zeppelin, The Who, the Rolling Stones.
Yes, just all those bands that I've ever.
Very jealous then.
And I remember being sat there more and more just thinking, I hate you.
And it was like my son, he came downstairs and he played the Stone Roses track to me, going, "Dad, have you heard this?" And I actually got to do it to him. So I had not only ever heard it, I've seen him play it. And he just shuffled on back up.
That's one of those things that still happen though. You think if I have kids or whatever, and in 20, 30 years they're like, "Oh, this music's brilliant. It's way better than what we had." And it's like, but I'm still listening to stuff from 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Whereas when I'm 50, 60, I don't want to be listening to what's out on the radio now. It's dreadful. It's awful.
I got to admit, there's again, it's why some of the local musicians that are playing, whether you listen to your True Foxes, for example, or you've got, gosh, there's so many, might leave some of them out there. Liam Jordan, he plays the live as well.
I really like that Toby Webb. And you see
Toby Webb's very good.
Toby Webb.
Excellent. Will Keaton played here. I saw him actually recently in Marazine. He was superb. You know, and in many respects, it's like, why would you bother listening to Beck? No disrespect to anybody who loves the stuff that's out now, but there's a lot of local talent that you can go and you can hear in a local pub.
It's proper music though. You have to be. That's the problem these days. You don't have to be talented to become famous. We literally had this discussion last night with my dad, who's probably listening to this. We were watching Michael Jackson live at Wembley. I think it was '98. And it's like, that bloke was phenomenal. But these days, you can sell out Wembley just by making a TikTok. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
There's things that I've seen some people talk about the overuse of things like auto-tune, or they would quantize it. And a classic example I did see of this chap who did, he quantized the drummer, John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, for one of their songs, and it just sounded dull. And like he's saying, the human element is what's the most. I mean, the people that are listening, they're all human beings. So at the end of the day, you've got to have that connection. And I don't object to things that are electronic. I mean, I enjoy music by Depeche Mode, for example. Yeah. But even they would actually physically play a lot of the stuff rather than have it computerized, because it starts to sound too much like music made by a toaster, I think was a quote I read from somebody. But I know what they mean. You've got to have that human element and that human connection, or you're not going to make a connection, and you miss the whole point of the exercise, really.
Well, have you heard the new Kasabian song yet?
I think I've heard you, Pet.
It's called Release the Pressure, and it's with Calvin Harris, and they couldn't stem any further away from what they made 20 years ago. It couldn't have got any further away. It's just like, I don't even think it's drum and bass. I don't even know what it is. It's so far away. The vocals, brilliant, but there's no guitars, no drums. It's all just electronic synthy. It's very strange, but there we are. I've never seen Kasabian. I might go and see him at Boardmasters this year, but
I remember the first album had quite a bit of electronic sound.
Oh, don't listen to the new one. You'll be so disappointed, I tell you. But one of the best gigs I went to, obviously Oasis, tippy top. But I watched Catfish and the Bottlemen at Reading, and all of the equipment failed. So Van McCann, before singing Cocoon Acoustic, smashed his guitar to pieces on stage, which was incredible. But I had to sit through 21 Savage to actually get to that gig who never even came out. So if anyone's listened to this and went to the same Reading festival, 21 Savage didn't come out. He was 40 minutes late, and we had some DJ, I think he was called DJ Mark, and he was on stage for about 45 minutes just dancing around with balloons, trying to keep everyone entertained. It's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Fantastic.
100 quid that was. 100 quid.
100 quid for a guy carrying records dancing with balloons.
Pretty much.
We could do that here quite easily, and you wouldn't charge you 100 quid for the privilege.
There you go. See, more promotion.
The stuff we could do.
So just before we wrap up, I'm going to throw a few more questions at you. I want one answer, bang, 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 and then we'll close out. All right? Favourite superhero?
The Superman's on my phone, so it's got to be him.
Who played him?
What, the original?
Which one's your favourite?
I was taken to cinema. First film I ever saw was Christopher Reeve, Superman. That'll give you an idea of my age as well.
I was very young, though.
Half this podcast has just been about how old you are, I'm sure of it.
Well, it's because you're so fantastically young, I think, particularly. But, yeah, I remember being taken to see that. And and the music was amazing. Everything, you know, you're a young kid, but you see this thing on the screen. It's just, that's always stayed with me.
That was like me with the Star Wars prequels. To me, the prequels was my original trilogy. It was phenomenal. But favourite band ever?
Probably is the Beatles. I meant
Beatles again.
Yeah, I do. It's strange because my father was a big Rolling Stones fan rather than the Beatles, but I did like the Beatles. Mum liked ABBA. I don't object to a bit.
Who doesn't like ABBA?
I don't object to a bit.
No one likes ABBA. The amount of gigs I've done DJing, and I've gone, well, this crowd is dead. Is voulez-vous. Bang. Everyone's dancing. Honestly, it's like ABBA Gold is the DJ's like album. You need it.
I was surprised. I did karaoke one Christmas, and my sister-in-law, I'm sure it's my sister-in-law, wanted to do an ABBA song, and I actually knew all the words. And that's
And Elder Screen.
That's down to Dear Old Mother.
There you go. Everyone likes ABBA. No one hates ABBA, I'm sure of it. I've never seen that ABBA Voyage. Is it Voyage? You know, the hologram?
Voyage sounds very posh.
It does, doesn't it? I probably like that.
I do struggle. I do pronounce things quite rustic sometimes. It leaves quite an
They did it with Elvis as well, Elvis Evolution, but apparently it was terrible.
Don't know.
It was like a hologram version of Elvis. But I saw a tribute last September. Might have been December, actually. No, September. Ben Portsmouth at Hall for Cornwall. We were sat like row C at the top of the thing, and that is Elvis Presley. Like from that distance, 100%. It was incredible.
There's a mate of mine who's in the good old fashioned Lover Boys Queen tribute.
Yeah.
And
They're really good. I'm not even big onto Queen, but they are good.
I had to see them in the Red Roof. Absolutely fantastic. They are brilliant. Recommend it. There's another plug. No, they're fantastic. And yeah, that's another group that my parents were particularly into, but I don't object to a bit of Queen. I got to in Cornwall, haven't you? As part of the
So I can't say I'm that big on Queen, I'm afraid. Favourite movie ever?
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Straight away,
Blade Runner.
I don't know why. I think it's Ridley Scott's visuals every time it starts, and that scene with is it Rutger Hauer? Tears in the Rain. I can remember that as a big the visuals for it just amazing, hugely influential as well. But it's one of those films everybody I think has got one. As soon as it's on TV or whatever and it's there, you end up watching all of it.
That sounds like us and Rocky 4 in my house. Rocky 4 and the soundtrack. So again, my dad's probably listening to this. He's probably thinking the same thing. Rocky 4 is incredible. Like, it's so good. And they fight on Christmas, so it is a Christmas film.
Dolph Lundgren.
I'll argue that over Die Hard.
Dolph Lundgren. I think Dolph Lundgren is legend.
If he dies, he dies.
I do. It's everyone can quote that one.
Comic.
Like they touch gloves, I must break you. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He Terminator thing. Huge guy, and I do know that. You know, as a kid, I did karate and stuff like that, and Dolph Lundgren was
Isn't he a black belt in something?
Kyokushin, which is like full contact karate. So he was the real scary deal, as it were. And I wouldn't like to come across him in a
I'd rather
dark
not.
and valley at any stage.
No, certainly not.
Big, terrifying human being.
One thing that always cracks me up about that film, just going back to the touching gloves, my dad pointed this out once when we were watching it for the 7,000th time. When Creed and Drago touch gloves, he touches gloves, right? Obviously, they both got gloves on. Camera pans out to him in the corner. His gloves are off again. He's like fully hands unwrapped to everything. It's incredible.
moving mistakes very high as well. When you spot one that's so glaring, and you're still looking at it going, that's completely wrong. It's like if somebody starts eating something, and the next thing they've got either something completely different in their hand, or it's completely different to the shape to what they were holding a minute ago. Or sometimes if they're eating as well as another giveaway, it's like a never ending
or the food,
or they're just either poking at it with a fork and not genuinely eating it, and we're thinking that's taking me completely out of it, because I'm not listening to a word you're saying anymore. I'm just thinking, why are you not eating that?
No, I noticed that in Benidorm, the TV show Benidorm, for me and Sinead, who went last year, and we went and saw all the sets and everything, and obviously it's filmed in just the normal hotels, but there's a scene where they're sat in the bar, in Neptune's bar, which we went in, and it was brilliant. And obviously it was a scene with John Chalice, and he was sat there and he was drinking this pint of lager, and the pint of lager just kept refilling every time this scene dropped out. It was quite funny.
The refilling pint of lager, I think everybody's dreamed about something.
Imagine how much that would cost, a refilling pint. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Endless. No, it's
endless doom.
And it's old black and white movies, because I do like films like Casablanca as well, absolute classics. And in that, there's films from that era where they're having business meetings at sort of 9-10 o'clock in the morning, and they're offering each other scotch. Yeah. And you think, no wonder there was a depression in the 30s. Everybody was trousered.
Yeah.
That's before it started.
Yeah, it's no wonder.
And then they go and get in these big, massive cars and drive off, and thinking, I'm pretty sure you shouldn't be doing this.
You're way over the limit by a mile. Just before we finish up then, I've got one final question going back to mining. If you could spend a day in a miner's shoes, would you do it underground in those conditions just to see the experience?
I think every one of us would say, yeah. You want to know what it was like just for that day. It'd be interesting to know which job people would pick. You get some brave people going, yeah, I could be a developer or a stoper. It's like, really?
I don't think you can. Do you know what I mean? So like, yeah.
Really? I mean, any job underground, even if you said, I wouldn't mind being a timberman, because I've thought about that in the past. Maybe I could do that, because I'm not sure I'd like the noise of the drills or the unstable rock you might be on, all these things. But even the timberman, you've got to carry massive girders around. You've got the weld things. You've got to climb up massive into stokes if you're putting in the casing or something like that. And there is no easy job that I've come across underground where you could. No. And I don't think, I'm sure there'll be some people laughing there who did work underground going, well, he was always asleep or whatever. But they will always know far better than we do what it was like. But the privilege that I'll always go back to is that a lot of them are very willing to share their stories with us and tell us what it was like. And long may that continue, because it's great to see a class full of kids asking minors questions. And when they start off, they might be, one example I can give you that's great. They once a school asked for a minor, would he come back to school? And do I know anybody who used to attend that school? And I said, I can do 2 for 1 there, that there's a minor that once attended the school. And it was your granddad.
This is the Madron School.
I got a photograph of him in the classroom, and he went and he said, what do I do? I said, but they're going to ask you questions. As far as I know, that's it. And as soon as I said, and this is a former minor, Eddie, they didn't care who I was. They didn't want to know. They just wanted to talk to Eddie. Yeah. Eddie sat in the front of the classroom. I think it was nearly 2 hours. These kids just asked question after question. And there's some great ones as well. When he said he was out underneath the sea, they would ask questions about how close were you to the seabed? And this is 7-year-olds. How close were you to the seabed? Were you afraid the sea would break through? What happens if it did? Or what do you think would happen if it did? Was anybody with you? Were you having someone look after you? And what if you did get scared? Who would you tell? Questions that, I don't know, people might not necessarily think of, but these kids were, I think a couple of the lads in the class were up for a job, to be honest, because they were asking them detailed questions.
Yeah.
How would you set the explosives? Was a drill heavy? Where would you get a drill like that? It's almost.
When do we get paid?
Yeah, and that's everyone. Was it good money? It's like this kid is clearly thinking about a career.
He's gonna sign up.
And it'd be brilliant if they do, because there's opportunities exist now. So you've got, Cornish Metals opening Crofty again. You've got the potential over at St. Day. They've got geothermic energy. You've got mining companies operating in Cornwall now, whether it's analysis. So you've got Petrolab, for example, up there in there's all these potential jobs out there that people could be going for, and they've got a skills gap. They haven't got the people to fill the jobs. And part of what we want to do at Geevor as well is signpost people to this future and say, we can help with the skills gap. We can run activities here as well. We're sort of talking to industry at the moment about what we can do actually on site, and how the buildings we have on site as well, if we had them brought up to a standard where we had at the toilet block, because we've had 100 students on site in the past, and we can manage it, and we can get that many on site and get as much out of it as possible. But if we had buildings that were more purpose built, even if we worked within the infrastructure that we had, because we've got the STEM hub now at what used to be the carpenter's workshop, which is brilliant. So we've got then a space where we can have people doing all kinds of activities. It doesn't have to be about the past. It can be about, right, build a robot, build a battery-powered car, working with Lego or something like that. Or, as I say, you've had them build battery-powered go-karts in there and actually drive them around the site. And we've had them in there doing activities, whether they make a badge, even something like that. You've got the creative side of it. You've got, well, how do you put it together?
All in one place.
All in one place here. But then there's other opportunities on site as well. As I say, we've got the all the chemistry and the engineering on site is huge, whether it's the winder house and how that operated and how it was powered. All a big important part of the site as well.
Obviously, another shameless plug there as well. STEM Hub, it is open over half term. There is a video on the YouTube channel, on the same channel you'll be listening to this one. But I just want to say before we go, massive thank you, Clint, for coming in today, taking up your time. Eating into your lunch break, so I do apologise.
Don't worry about that, Bill. It's all good to, well, thank you for listening to me waffle on.
Well, thank you very much for coming. We will drop all of Clint's links in the description to his new song. Please check it out, share it loads of love. There is a couple more videos on the YouTube page as well. I'll link our Facebook and everything in the description. If you're listening on Spotify, it'll all be exactly the same as well. So thank you very much, Clint. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much. And yeah, good day to everybody else as well. Proper job.
Right on.